Hello everyone, this is Tim and Peggy, and we want to welcome you back to the Adventure Chapter channel, where today we will be covering day 4 of our Tour du Mont Blanc trek. This day would take us from Refuge to Mottets, across the Franco-Italian border to Refuge Elisabetta. This hike was only about 5 miles long, but offered some wonderful views, and we want to invite you to come along and be part of our adventure.
As we awoke on July the 4th at Des Mottets, it was very refreshing to have not been kept awake by neighborhood fireworks the night before. If you live in the States, you will understand. This being our 4th day on trail and our first stay in a refuge, we have to look back at Des Mottets and say it was a very good stay. We enjoyed plenty of good food and rested in a clean, comfortable accommodations. This was our first experience with a refuge communal meal. We had the pleasure to have dinner and breakfast with a young couple from Texas who were using the hike as a celebration of their retirement from the armed services.
As we left, we stopped to admire the refuge, the majestic Aiguille de Glacier, and a small armed services memorial that stood nearby.
Next, it was time to turn our attention to today's hike, which started with a steep ascent out of the valley up toward Col de la Seine and the Italian border. During today's hike, we began to notice that the wildflowers were in full bloom.
As if the alpine views were not enough, these wildflowers seemed to put an exclamation point on the views that we were seeing today. After a relatively easy morning of hiking, we pulled into Col de Sing and crossed the Italian border. You will notice in the background of some of our videos that it was rather windy in the Col. This was often the case. You will also notice in our photos at this Col that we put on our raincoats as windbreakers. To put it simply, it was rather cool in the Col.
After getting all the pictures and videos we needed, it was time to get out of the windy Col and head down the trail into Italy. Buongiorno would become the preferred trail greeting, leaving behind bonjour until we passed back into France later in the trek.
It turned out that our first greeting in Italy was from this family of marmots along the side of the trail. We often saw marmots in rocky areas or in creek beds. This last guy is even enjoying the last bit of snow at this higher elevation.
As we descended into the valley, Refugio Elisabetta came into view. What a picturesque refugio this is, with not one but two glaciers right in their back door. Glacier di Estelet and Glacier di La Blanche are so close that you feel like you can reach out and touch them.
With a short day of hiking, we arrived at the refuge a bit too early to check in, so we ate our lunch in the Refuge restaurant. By mid-afternoon, we were able to check into our room. The accommodations at Elisabetta are a bit basic even in the private rooms, with bunk beds and bathrooms down the hall. The refuge itself can be a bit chaotic at times. But all of these things we just chalked up to our experience on the TMB.
After a good meal and great conversation with some fellow hikers, it was time for a hot shower and for us to head off to bed. This brought day 4 to a close.